We're living in a moment, voting power has shifted. Donald Trump told many lies, and it made us realize electoral power we can't deny. We hopped on board, gave it a try. 2020, we went to work. Folks turned out, we set records. Kicked Trump out of office, yay. People power did that, hey. 2022, what's on the line? COVID recovery on our minds. Now's the time for real change. Let's see the vote and rearrange. Balance of power in Washington. People power has just begun. Let's mobilize folks to the polls. Corporate politicians have got to go. We'll train you up to door knock too. Elect them with some different views. Let's build our movements and demand some basic things. It isn't grand. Stop deportations, end all wars. Cancel student debt, we must implore. We need Roe v. Wade and voting rights. Don't shut down COVID testing sites. We need freedom from these racist cops. Justice now can't stop, won't stop. Trans folks have a human right to learn, work, live, not be in fright. Green New Deal, take care of Earth. Let us breathe free healthcare first. Now's the time for real change. Let's see the vote and rearrange. Balance of power in Washington. People power has just begun. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Voices from the Frontline with See the Vote. My name is Mijin, and I'll be your co-host for this evening. Before I introduce myself, I wanted to do some housekeeping. We will have ASL interpretation available on screen throughout the program, and you can access Spanish interpretation by calling the number that's scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Para interpretación en español, por favor llame al número abajo en la pantalla. Captions are available below the screen. You can click the CC box at the bottom of your screen to turn the captions on and off. We will be answering questions in the chat, so please click over to the YouTube page to see that and drop your questions there, and they'll be answered in the chat. So I am Mijin. I use she and her pronouns, and I'm the Seed the Vote grassroots fundraising coordinator. And I'll pass it over to my co-host to introduce.
I'm so glad to be with you today and to experience that fabulous performance, Mijin. Thank you. My name is Jesse Aaron Saftali. I use he or they pronouns, and I'm the Director of Development and Communication here at Seed the Vote. And I'm very grateful for all of you and to be with you today. And I'll be co-hosting.
And Jesse, what brings you to this work? Why are you excited about tonight, about Seed the Vote?
I am excited to be working with Seed the Vote and to be working on the midterms because I come from a long line of community organizers, and I've been an organizer myself since I was a teenager. And now as a middle-aged organizer, I am very concerned about the future of our planet and the real threat of the right and of authoritarianism. And I'm also very inspired by the people power of the groups that we're working with to be able to think at multiple levels, multiple strategies and tactics to change the political terrain that we're living in. So that is why I'm here. That's why I'm fighting. What about you, Mijin? What brings you to this work?
Well, everything that you just said, Jesse, plus I was able to be in Georgia in 2020 working with one of our partners, actually, who will be on the call tonight, and we'll be able to hear what they're up to in 2022. But I was really inspired by all the work that I was seeing and experiencing on the ground back then. So that's what brought me to join Seed the Vote this year for the midterms and
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to, as folks are trickling in, welcome folks again who are just joining us. We are so grateful that you've decided to come and spend time with See the Vote, and we've got some really special guests. So let's get this party started.
But before we get to our amazing program, we just want to ground ourselves in who See the Vote is and why we're having this event tonight.
See the Vote is a volunteer powerhouse that helped to defeat Trump and elect the two Democratic Georgia senators, John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, ending the Republican control of the Senate in 2020.
We partner with grassroots groups in key battleground states, and our partners all do year-round community organizing. We mobilize volunteers to support their work and help win important national elections to stop the right and grow our movements for the long term.
And with a Republican-dominated Supreme Court, razor-thin Democratic majorities in the House and Senate, corporate Democrats making it difficult to pass meaningful legislation, and the Republican Party doing everything they can to undermine election integrity in 2022 and beyond, we know that we're in the middle of a defining political moment, and what happens in this year's elections can shift our federal political arena towards white nationalism and authoritarianism, or towards conditions that will allow our movements to usher in a progressive era and pave the way towards long-term change.
And so to that end, we are mobilizing volunteers to door knock and phone bank to defeat the right in the 2022 midterms in 6 pivotal battleground states, including Nevada, North Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Wisconsin.
I always have to count on my fingers the states because it's hard to keep track. There's so many. So we are working with incredible partners on each of these campaigns, including the Working Families Party, Unite Here, People's Action, Asian American Advocacy Fund PAC, Surge, Showing Up for Racial Justice Action, Lucha, the Asian Pacific Islander Political Alliance, Pennsylvania Stands Up, Pennsylvania United, Durham for All, and the New Georgia Project Action Fund. These partners are not only working on these Senate races, but on races up and down the ballot, and they're organizing around just the basic bread and butter issues that are essential to all of our futures.
So we know that defeating the right in the midterms is going to take all of us engaging in a whole range of ways. So today, we are here to respond to our partners' urgent call for volunteers to support their door knocking efforts to win the midterms in each of those 6 key states. So we're going to hear from 3 of those partners today, Asian American Advocacy Fund PAC, Unite Here Local 11, and Durham for All, about what they're doing to win and how we can directly support their work.
And I'm also very excited that we're going to be hearing from movement leader and principal at Black Futures Lab, Alicia Garza. And we'll also be getting a shout out from our movement artist friends, Las Cafeteras. Transitioning, in 2020, I mentioned I was really lucky to work with the Asian American Advocacy Fund PAC. And I'm really happy that we have Saida joining us tonight to share what they're up to in 2022. So over to you, Saida.
Hi everyone, my name is Saida. I'm one of the senior community organizers here at AAAF PAC. I'm here to talk to y'all about what's going on in Georgia. So we're really throwing it down for the midterms because we literally have the safety, security, and the well-being of our entire communities on the ballot this year. We have a phenomenal candidate for U.S. Senate, Senator Raphael Warnock, a gubernatorial candidate, Stacey Abrams. We also have so many important down ballot races. So it's important for us as as an Asian American serving organization to make sure that we're going down completely, knocking all the doors, not just for our for Senator Warnock and Stacey Abrams, but also for our down ballot candidates. And that's what we're doing at the doors and on the phones. So we're gonna have people knocking across the state, concentrated within some 5 specific counties, but we're just making sure that we're talking to every single voter possible, to make sure that our communities are being advocated for, so we can also hold some of these folks accountable if our promises aren't fulfilled. So that's what we're doing. And why should y'all come join us? Because we have made history. In 2020, no one thought that it would come down to Georgia flipping the Senate, and we did it. And that's exactly why we're hoping to have so many volunteers come in from around the country to come and support our work, to make sure that we don't lose our community's trust, community power, and that we're really advocating for all of our folks, because we know that we are the ones who hold the power to make change happen. And the first step of it is getting out and making sure folks are coming out and voting.
Thanks so much for that, Saida. And it's really true. We need folks to show love for Georgia the way that we were showing love in 2020. And I definitely believe that we will win because of that incredible vision, organization, and determination by the AAAF PAC leaders and staff. So check out the chat. In the chat, we're dropping information about how you can volunteer to door knock with AAAF PAC in Atlanta, going through Election Day. And they especially have needs for folks who speak various Asian languages that we'll let you know about in the chat. And we have Bridie with us. Do you want to introduce Jesse?
Yeah, so Bridie, welcome Pastor Bridie Roberts, who's Unite Here Local 11's Community Organizing Director. Unite Here Local 11 played a key role in defeating Trump and flipping the Senate in Arizona in 2020, and is back again on for the midterms, knocking on doors, doing the critical work that will be so necessary for transforming Arizona. And so, welcome, Bridie. I wonder if you could start by just sharing what Unite Here Local 11 is doing this year on the doors.
Absolutely. It's really wonderful to speak to everyone. We had so much support from Seed the Vote in 2020 here on the ground in Arizona, where we really did pull off a historic victory, where every door knock, every vote counted to take Donald Trump out of office and to secure the Senate seat for Mark Kelly, helping to push the Senate into the hands of people, working people. But I got to tell you, everything's on the line, right? In 2022, we're facing fierce midterm elections across the country, but especially here in Arizona, we've seen a rise in candidates who are running in the Republican Party that are fascist, that do not believe in the equality of women, that have white supremacist language in their speeches, and they're polling well, right? Like, there's a lot of work to do here. And so we're in it to win it. We've got to make sure that we have a Democratic governor here in Arizona. We need to keep Mark Kelly in the Senate. We have ground races across the state and also in Phoenix, which will help impact the lives of working people, immigrants, and women. It is an incredible time to be here, and it incredibly necessary. We have this opportunity to win so much more, right? To gain ground. Or if we are unsuccessful, to lose more than we can imagine. And so it is just an intense fight, and we're on the ground every day right now knocking to secure our candidates in their spaces.
Thank you for that, Bridie. And I'm curious, there's so much at stake. I'm always curious, what brings people into the work, because I think there's so many personal stories as well. Can you share with us what brings you to this work?
Sure. I am super inspired by the campaign that we have here on the ground. I actually live in Los Angeles, and like so many of you, have chosen to leave where I call home, where my daily work is, and to come to Arizona for the next 6 weeks to walk beside the people of Arizona, and actually folks from all over the country and workers from all over the country, folks who are immigrants, people of color, young people, retired people, students, because people understand that Arizona is a determiner for the way that it's a bellwether state, right? What happens here in this midterm election will determine in many ways what happens in the presidential election that's right around the corner. And so people have responded in droves. And so you see folks knocking doors for the future of their children. You see folks knocking doors because they want to save reproductive rights for women. In Arizona, we now have one of the most restrictive anti-reproductive rights, anti-abortion laws in the country. A local judge just reinstated a law from the late 1800s, completely barring women from access to abortion care. One of the people who is running to, Blake Masters, who's running for Senate, believes that contraception should not be legal for women, that women should not have access to contraception. And the woman who is running for governor in the Republican Party against Katie Hobbs, the excellent former Secretary of State who fought to protect the 2020 election results, her name is Carrie Lake, the opposing candidate. She doesn't believe that women and men are created equal, and she will make abortion permanently illegal in Arizona. And so you see women, actually lots of young women here who understand that even though they're in California, they come from California or other places, what happens here really matters to not just the future of women living in Arizona, but to women across the country, right? Because these folks want to have federal power and to push these agendas. And so, there's a lot to lose, but there's so much to gain too. We're not just fighting to hold on to this space, like working people, like this is why I'm so glad to be a part of our union, right? I firmly believe that Arizona was delivered by both volunteers, but also housekeepers and, stadium workers and food service preparers who gave up everything and came here for 3 months and knocked thousands and thousands and thousands of doors. And that's what we're seeing again, right? Real democracy in action. It's totally inspiring. And I believe that we will win. But I also know that we need many more hands in the game to ensure that we have a really solid future for people.
Whew, that was really powerful and really moving. I'm wondering if you can just share with us sort of why Unite Here is calling for volunteer door knockers again in 2022 and what you're seeing as the power of door knocking to be able to make that win possible.
Sure. So, this game that we're all in, this piece of work that we're part of, whether you're going to go to Georgia or Reno or any of these wonderful places, like we know that the way that we not only hold on to democracy, but actually change it and improve it so it actually represents working people, people of color, immigrants, women, the whole spectrum of who it is to be living in the United States is from person-to-person conversation, right? Those conversations on the doors in 2020 were really difficult. We encountered folks who had voted for Trump originally and who understood that that decision was a mistake. But if we didn't knock on their doors, their vote wouldn't have changed. They wouldn't have found the courage to choose something different, to stand up against their neighbors, to proclaim that they wanted a different kind of freedom, right? We're seeing the same thing now, right? We are in this for the long run. These conversations at the door are for this vote in 2022, but we're also finding the leaders for the future. The folks who are knocking the doors, many of them, I think, will go on to be lifelong activists. They'll be change makers in their communities. They'll become leaders in our union and leaders in the local organizations. But they will also meet people at the doors who will be ready to make great changes in their own life. This is a investment, but we also know that we cannot win these votes without taking the doors. Text banking and phone banking are super important, but it's the conversation at the door at the end of the day that's going to make sure that people go to the polls. I mentioned earlier that we are fighting for a progressive governor, Katie Hobbs. We're working very hard to keep Mark Kelly in the Senate. We have great candidates, but there are 4 ballot propositions on this election in Arizona that would greatly reduce and limit the rights of voters and their own ability to participate in democracy. And this is really dangerous, and it's a direct response to the power that See the Vote volunteers and all kinds of other people enacted when they knocked doors in 2020, right? It's a pushback. And it's definitely like these dying gasps of white supremacy that we have to push against. But it's those conversations at the door that not only win for us at the ballot, but change heart and minds for the long run.
Thank you so much, Brady, for joining us.
Sure. We
And
can't wait
for
to see you
sharing.
guys out here. It's going to be amazing. We already have a couple of Seed the Vote volunteers, and they're fantastic. Last year, when the whole crew came in, it was like this shot of fresh air and juice, and like it just popped off. It was amazing. And so we're waiting for you. And if you come, you guys can work with me in my office. It's going to be fun.
Nice.
We have a
Yes.
good time. We save democracy and we have a good time. So come to Arizona.
Arizona, it's good, like a battle of the states. We're so like proud to be working in partnership with you and with the Unite Here Local 11. And so for folks who are on the call, will you join us and Pastor Brady and our partners at Unite Here, Local 11 to door knock in Arizona, or any of our other states, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Georgia, or North Carolina. We're dropping links in the chat to sign up, to do in-person canvassing, or to join our phone banks. So thank you again, Brady, for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having us. We'll see you hopefully very soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
See you in Phoenix. Join us and join Unite Here Local 11 in Phoenix. We're now going to hear briefly from our friends at Las Cafeteras, which is a powerful cultural force who we partnered with in 2020 in the work to defeat Trump and flip the Senate, and who we continue to build our movements with, and from Leslie Mack, a movement leader, digital strategist, and a cultural force as well as a producer of this event. So here's to you.
What's up? We're Las Cafeteras. We just want to give a big hug, mucho cariño to the familia at Seed the Vote.
Yo, thank you so much for the work you're doing. Much love to the volunteers, the staff. We just came back from a Texas tour with Beto and Dolores Huerta, out there doing work for abortion rights, for women's rights, for gun reform. But there's a lot of work here to do here in Cali. So we just want to say thank you. We wish we're here in person, but we out here trying to do the damn thing as well. So just much love to See the Vote. Gracias. Let's keep it doing it. Peace, peace.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leslie Mack. I am a digital strategist and communications director at the Frontline. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a light-skinned Black woman. I have long rainbow-colored braids. I'm wearing a gold and black shirt, gold earrings, and a gold necklace, and I have a cute red lip on. I'm so excited to be here tonight. My work as a digital strategist is grounded in a Black feminist lens and often brings me directly into community with organizations like Seed the Vote, who help regular people just like you and just like me get connected with grassroots electoral work all across the country. This kind of work is keeping me centered and giving me so much hope right now. And I'm here to ask you for your support. Seed the Vote is going all in on one of the most crucial federal electoral fights of this decade. They intend to use the next few federal election cycles to push back the right, win more governing power for progressive champions and Democrats more generally, in order to effectively shift the balance of power in Washington. This will help create the conditions that will allow all of our people-powered movements to win big federal victories on climate and healthcare, on housing and jobs, immigration, policing, reproductive justice. If you name it, it is on the ballot. The governing party often loses in the midterms because the opposition turns out strongly. But recently, polls have indicated that Democrats are favored to win both the House and the Senate. And now, right now, is the time to mobilize our communities to ensure that we indeed turn out to defeat the right in the 2022 midterms. So let's talk about numbers. It costs about $800 to house someone in Reno for a week to volunteer canvass. And y'all know Reno is not the most expensive place that Seed the Vote is doing this crucial work. So anything that you can contribute towards getting a volunteer out to canvass and support these amazing grassroots organizations is deeply appreciated. So I'm going to ask you to donate today and visit stvote.org/donate. That's stvote.org/donate. And now I'm going to toss it to my good sis, Alicia Garza, who is going to talk about why the 2020 midterms are so important. Take it away, Alicia.
Hey y'all, my name is Alicia Garza. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and diva. And I am based in Atlanta, Georgia. I am from the Bay, and I run two organizations, one called the Black to the Future Action Fund, and the other is called the Black Futures Lab. Accessibility description: I am a Black woman, 41 years old, with winged eyeliner, lashes, big chunky braids, and I'm wearing a blue hooded sweatshirt and hoop earrings and a gold necklace, and no lipstick. It's the end of the day and I am tired. Anyways, Seed the Vote crew, it is so great to be here with y'all. Thank you for inviting me to share some words about this upcoming midterm election. I just want to start off with talking a little bit about what's at stake for our movements and what's at stake for our communities. And as we're talking about what's at stake for our movements, I have to say that what is on the ballot this year and coming up in 2024 is whether or not we are going to live in a fascist society. I have to be honest with y'all. What we're seeing right now is very, very scary. We're not just dealing with two political parties, right, that are on opposite sides of particular issues. We are dealing with an entire faction that wants to basically run this country by force, that wants to decide who belongs here and who doesn't, that is willing to use the military and police to enforce their agenda. They are also willing to use violence that exists outside of the military and outside of the police to enforce their agenda. And there right now are sitting lawmakers in Congress and in state legislatures across the nation who are aligned with that agenda. And so what is at stake in this upcoming midterm election is whether or not we are going to give that faction more power and fundamentally alter the landscape of what's possible here in this country. And I don't want to mince words about that. I think a lot of times when we talk about elections, we get caught up in the whole thing about Democrats and Republicans, and there are some core differences. That is true. And it's also normal to feel like they both kind of move the same agenda. I totally get that. But this year is actually unique. And this period is actually unique in that for the first time in a long time, there is a growing faction of extremists, right, that have a completely different vision for how this country can and should be run. And they are already starting to implement that. From Governor DeSantis and Governor Abbott out of Texas, Governor DeSantis out of Florida, and the governor out of Arizona, right? Those governors are doing things literally like kidnapping migrants and sending them to other states. Just yesterday, Governor Greg Abbott shipped a busload of migrants to the vice president's home in Washington, D.C. as a political statement. These are the kinds of things that are being tested in our communities by lawmakers and by leaders and elected officials. And they're trying to test to see if they can stay in office even when they are doing these egregious things. So really what I like to say to people is that no matter which side of the aisle you stand on, it is really important to stand on the side of history that says no to xenophobia, no to kidnapping, no to racism, right? We can solve problems together and have differences of opinion about how we solve those problems, but we cannot have differences of opinion on how we preserve and protect and uphold the dignity of humanity. And that is literally what is on the ballot. When you are casting your vote for governor or secretary of state or a potential U.S. congressperson, right? You are making a bold statement about what kind of country you want to live in, who you want to live here with, and how you want decisions to be made. Do you want decisions to be made by force and violence, or do you want decisions to be made through compromise? And so that is what's at stake for our movements. And it's also very much what's at stake for our communities. There are lots of things on the ballot in states across the country that are impacting us, whether it be access to affordable housing, access to affordable health care, whether or not we will accept immigrants in our communities, right? There are so many things that we get to make decisions on in this upcoming election cycle. And so there are the issues, right? And then there's the big issue, which is what's happening to our democracy. And so I really want to make clear that when you're casting your vote for governor, when you're casting your vote for secretary of state or a sitting congressperson, you are really actually voting for what kind of future you want. And so that is important to know. The message that I give for folks who are fed up with business as usual is me too. And I know electoral politics can be a frustrating landscape to operate on, but I do want to just give us some context in terms of how we got to where we are. You know, the reality is that our conditions didn't come out of nowhere. And actually, these governors that are in place that are doing egregious things in our communities, secretaries of state who are whittling away our constitutionally protected right to make decisions on our own behalf. This movement didn't come out of nowhere. It actually came from more than 30 years of this extremist faction voting. And they spent the better part of the last 3 decades putting people in place who shared their agenda. They were very strategic about what they chose to focus on. And when they lost or suffered a setback, they did not give up. They kept voting and kept organizing people to their side. And that's how we got to where we are today. They have been relentless in pursuit of their agenda. And I think we should be relentless in pursuit of ours. And so, yes, electoral politics is frustrating, it's exasperating, it's exhausting, and also it is one tool that we have in a toolbox of many to bring about the world that we deserve and to ensure dignity and humanity for all of us. One vote does not equal change, and I want to be very clear about this, but also not voting doesn't equal change either. You know, what's so interesting, right, is that sometimes people think that voting is kind of like a snack machine. So you go to the snack machine and you put your quarter in and you press B6 and all of a sudden you're supposed to get justice. And that's not how it works. Voting is a tool in a strategy for building power and getting organized and working hard together to move our agenda forward. And so even though we're tired, we must be relentless in our pursuit of justice. And one way we do that is by continuing to vote, by continuing to make sure that no decision about us is going to be made without us, and continuing to make sure that there are consequences when people disappoint us. And if we sit back and we sit home, we cannot implement those consequences, and we cannot make decisions over our own lives. And here's the reality of it, folks. At the end of the day, our opposition wants us to stay home. In fact, they count on it. And that's why they rigged the rules so that when we do show up at the polls, we can't cast our votes. This is why they spread misinformation and disinformation in our communities, because they don't want us to vote. They want us to stay home because they know how powerful we are when we're organized. So let's flex our power. It's ours for the taking. Last thing I will say here is Voting is one tool, but is not the only tool. And frankly, it is important that we show up at the polls every 2 years to make sure that our voices are heard. But even more important than that is the work that we do in between election cycles to change the political landscape. It's important that we are waging our fights in between midterm elections and presidential elections, that we are organizing more and more people around an agenda that reflects the best of us, and that we are moving that agenda in state houses, in city councils, in school boards, and in the United States Congress. But it's even more important that we are building a movement out of that agenda. And so for me, when we vote, it is one step toward all that other work that we have to do to build long-term power that will change the landscape that we're operating in. That is why we do this work. It is not to elect Democrats or Republicans. It is to win hearts and minds, and it is to make the rules and change the rules. We do this work because we want to decide where money goes and where it doesn't go. And we do this work because we want to define the story of who this country is, and more importantly, who it can be. And so again, I want to thank you for inviting me. Thank you for all of the work that you're doing. Seed the Vote, folks, you are amazing. At the Black Futures Lab and the Black to the Future Action Fund, we work to make Black communities powerful in politics, and we are overjoyed to stand in solidarity with you all. Thank you for having me, and please help us get out the vote. There's a lot at stake, and our futures depend on it. Peace.
Thank you so much, Alicia, for your words and for your work, and also to Leslie and to Las Cafeteras for all of the work that all of y'all are doing. I think and what these videos show us is that our movements are so connected, right? Between the Frontline campaign, shout out to Tiffany, Miss Flowers, and also Las Cafeteras being in Texas, but also being, just all over the place. And as Alicia shared, right, all of us know in all of our movements is that the stakes of winning these midterms are critically high for our communities, our movements, for the future of the planet. And so now we want to transition. We're going to hear from another group that is building independent political power in North Carolina. Durham for All is an organization doing critical work for justice, including organizing for organizing for access to safe abortion, housing, education, sanctuary, and democracy for all.
What's up, y'all? My name is Osa Lee, and my gender pronouns are she, her, and I'm an organizer with Durham for All. And since March of this year, Durham for All has been engaged in our Swing the State 2022 campaign, where we mobilized our people to the polls for the primary election in the spring and used the summer to engage our people about issues they care about. Our campaign is split into 2 rounds. The first round was between August 1st and September 10th, where we knocked nearly 3,000 doors and had almost 600 conversations. This engagement work was done by volunteers just like y'all. And round 2 started on September 26th, and we're shifting gears in round 2 to talk with our folks about the candidates Durham for All has endorsed. And those candidates are Sherry Beasley for U.S. Senate, Lucy Inman for North Carolina Supreme Court, and Sam Irvin also for North Carolina Supreme Court. We're talking to Durham voters about what's at stake in this election and coming together to make a change at the ballot box. Because we're at a crossroads that would determine the future of the United States, either moving closer towards a multiracial democracy or being taken backwards by reactionary racists and those who prefer lies to truth. From now until Election Day, we will talk with our people about our endorsed candidates and the importance of defeating the far-right Republicans who hold a progressive vision for Durham, North Carolina, and the country. In the North Carolina General Assembly, we are 5 Republican seats away from having a wholesale rollback of progressive rights such as safe abortion access, access to public health care, and democratic rights, just to name a few. And this all makes the efforts that you all are part of in our swing state campaign vital in determining the trajectory of North Carolina and the U.S. Right now, we have a 4-3 Democratic majority on the North Carolina State Supreme Court. And to maintain our majority and to continue to hold Republican-led General Assembly at bay, we need to mobilize as many people as possible to the polls. And North Carolina is one of about 8 states that is uniquely positioned to help Democrats maintain and possibly grow their majority in the U.S. Senate, which means that we hold a line against a Republican advance to regain control and force legislation on our people, such as national abortion bans. In Durham, because of a high concentration of Democratic voters, we can turn out thousands of more voters that will tip the scale towards tip the scale on statewide elections, such as the U.S. Senate and North Carolina Supreme Court races, right? That we have been increasingly determined by a few thousand votes or less. For example, Sherry Beasley lost the North Carolina State Supreme Court race in 2020 by just 401 votes. So Durham can truly decide the trajectory of North Carolina coming out of these midterm elections. And so when y'all arrive in Durham to canvass, you'll get a training before we go out on the doors. You'll meet some of our canvassing team members and local volunteers and get to experience firsthand our campaign focus and how we're building with our people to take action with us. I look forward to see y'all when we're out on the doors to canvass.
Ooh, all right, let's join up with Durham for All, because Durham for All is making sure that it's North Carolina for all, which is making sure that it is all of us for all of us. That is powerful work. We are also, Seed the Vote is mobilizing for a door knocking week of action with Durham for All, specifically the week of October 24th. And we would love to get as many people out there getting this amazing training from Durham for All and working with us to get those doors and reach as many of the voter universe, folks in the voter universe that Durham for All is trying to reach to win these elections. And so we hope you'll join us in Durham. And again, if you can't, you can also join us to door knock in Pennsylvania, Nevada, Georgia, Arizona every day between now and Election Day. So please sign up to door knock with us. Sign up at stvvote.org/doorknock and check the chat for the direct link to sign up.
Yeah, and the link you just saw on the bottom of your screen is actually our General Seed the Vote website, where you can also find everything, not just door knocking opportunities, but everything. So thank you actually to Drew and Leslie, who are doing our back end tech for us tonight. And there's always a lot going on behind the screen. So just want to give a little shout out. So as you've heard tonight, our partners have urgently expressed their needs for volunteers to support their work on the doors. We are not in a 2020 moment. Conditions are different now in 2022. And, you know, like the time is now. We're having this event tonight. You know, we hope we lured you in. You're here with us now. And we need you to sign up. So check the link in the chat to sign up, emphasizing the door knocking, but obviously we want you to engage with us in whatever way you're able to.
So we know that what we do in this next period of time will impact the political tide of this country, which will impact the conditions of the globe. So we are in this together. Let's do this work together. We have 5 weeks left to impact the midterm elections. So one more time, we'll ask you for the last time tonight, but we will keep asking you tomorrow and the next day. Join us, click the links, and you join us on the doors. If you're not able to join us on the doors, share that with friends who might be able to join us on the doors, and join us on the phones to be able to build people power and change the electoral math of these midterm elections.
So, and we invite you to drop in the chat if you're signing up with us tonight, and where you're coming from, where you want to go. We want to see it. And that, I think is that the end of our program, Jesse? Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
See you on the street, see you at the doors, see you on the phones.
Good night.